Are you stuck overthinking your writing? The problem is that overthinking doesn't help you solve the problem at all. It might actually be making it worse. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly why overthinking sabotages your creativity, keeps you from getting your writing done, and then I'm going to show you how you can break free and start writing again with confidence. Stay tuned. So what is overthinking exactly? Well, it's pretty much the way it sounds. It's thinking too much. But then you might say, well, I'm thinking all the time. How do I know if I'm thinking too much? When it comes to your writing, there's one big way you can tell. Have you started taking action? Sure, you may be thinking, but if you're also writing and you're writing regularly and you're accumulating lots of words and pages, then you're probably fine. But if you're thinking instead of writing, you're most likely overthinking. Want to know what overthinking does to writers that is not good? Let's cover that in the next section. So oftentimes when we're caught up in overthinking, we don't really imagine that it's hurting us. It just feels like we're trying to solve a problem. We're trying to figure something out. So we're thinking and we're writing down pros and cons lists and we're asking our friends what they think, and then we're thinking some more. Maybe we're journaling about it and we keep going through this loop and we think, I'm just trying to solve this problem. Unfortunately, that's not what's really happening. What's really happening is that your overthinking is keeping you stuck in a loop. You can imagine a little rat just going round in the maze, and there's no way out to speak of. It slows down your decision making, for one. If you're trying to decide what you're going to do next in this story, or whether or not you're going to go to this conference, or whether or not you're going to self-publish this book, overthinking keeps you stuck. Overthinking also does something else that's really super dangerous. And that is that it gets you in the habit of avoiding action, which is like one of the worst things if you're a writer, because if you want to be a successful writer, taking action is one of the most important things you have to be able to do. Overthinking gets you in the habit that you're just thinking and thinking some more and thinking some more, and you're never taking the actions you need to take. It creates an exhausting loop that leads you nowhere. It also consumes your energy, but it gives you nothing back. Taking action is where you get results. Overthinking keeps you in the same place. Again, picture that rat. He's using lots of energy getting around that maze, but he's not going anywhere. You can come back 5 years later and he's still sitting right there. Finally, overthinking tends to promote negative thinking and self-doubt. And we writers are already vulnerable to these things, right? We don't need something else making it even more likely that we're going to get down on ourselves. If you don't believe me, here's the scary part. Scientists say that overthinking, what they call rumination, is a major risk factor for anxiety and depression. Yes, let's talk about that. Psychologist Ryan Howes has this to say: the depressed person dwells on losses and missteps from the past, while the anxious ruminator drowns in a sea of what-if questions, forever envisioning the negative outcome. This is a lot of what happens when we're overthinking. We convince ourselves that it's helpful and that if we just keep doing it, we're going to find this solution we're looking for. But research shows that actually the opposite happens. Overthinking doesn't lead to insight. I mean, this is what blows your mind, right? We think that the more we think about this problem, the closer we'll get to a solution, but science says no, actually the opposite is the truth. Overthinking doesn't lead to insight. It doesn't lead to the solution to the problem. It just leads to more overthinking. Consider this. Where do you get your best ideas? Is it when you're really thinking about it? For most of us, it's when we're in the shower or bath, when we're taking a long drive, when we're out walking in nature. Voila! Up pop these ideas, right? We're not necessarily thinking and thinking. We're just going along, our minds are somewhere else, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, I could do this with my story. That's what leads to insight, not overthinking. The other thing is that we need energy to solve problems. We need mental energy, and overthinking drains that energy. So you can't expect while you're draining the gas tank of your fuel to create solutions that you're suddenly going to get a solution. You get the solution when you fill up your creative energy. That's why when you go take a walk, or you relax in a bath, or you take a nice long drive, or spend some time with your dog, or whatever you do that helps you relax, you refill that creative well, and then the solution comes through for you. While you're overthinking and making pros and cons lists and putting all this stuff on charts and trying to figure out what should I do, you're draining that energy. So you don't have the fuel you need to come up with a creative solution. So then the question is, how do we stop overthinking and get back to writing? Well, let's discuss that in the next section. The first step is probably the most important, because without this, you can't get anywhere when it comes to overthinking. The first step is you have to become aware of your thoughts. Understand when your mind shifts into the overthinking loop. So how do you know this? Well, you know this first if you're not taking action. If you're not actually doing the thing that you're thinking about, most likely you're caught up in overthinking, especially if you haven't done it for several days or even longer. So then you got to say, okay, I need to be aware when these thoughts start going round and round in my head. You can just pause in the middle of the day and say, okay, what am I thinking about right now? Or if you're getting ready to write and then you resist actually writing, ask yourself, what am I thinking about right now? Try to become more aware what's going on in your head. The second step is to label any ruminating thoughts, scientists call it, overthinking thoughts, as harmful, not helpful. Because like I said before, we tend to think that we're solving a problem, but we have to realize, no, that's not what's happening here. We're overthinking, and that's not good for us. Just noticing your thoughts is powerful, but it's even more productive when you actually label those overthinking thoughts as harmful to your creativity and your writing. Here, what can really help is writing them down. So if you're going back to approach that story and you start overthinking, oh, this isn't working right here, this plot isn't playing out the way that I hoped it would, this isn't very exciting, this part is boring, and you're overthinking and you're not taking action, pull out your journal and start writing this down. This book is boring. It's not going the way I want it to. You're writing all this down. I feel stuck in like this book is no good. Write all that down so you can become super hyper aware of exactly what thoughts are going on in your mind. Oftentimes when we put them down on the paper, it's so much easier to see how negative they are than when they're just looping around in our heads. The next step, and this one's really powerful, is you turn those thoughts you just wrote down into questions. Because this can lead you into taking action, which is where we want to go. So for example, if your thought is, this story must be crap, you want to turn that around into a helpful question to ask. So you look at that thought, this story must be crap. The first question you might ask is this story crap? How do you answer that? Well, typically the answer would be getting feedback from someone else. So your next question would be, how can I get feedback on this story? And then that's going to spur you to take action, because either you're going to hand the story off to a writing friend, a beta reader, an editor, a writing coach, somebody that can help give you the feedback of, is this story crap? Or is there something I can do that will help me get going on it again? Here's another example. Let's say you're ready to self-publish your book, but you're worried that it will get bad reviews. You can turn that around and say, will this book get bad reviews? And so then your next question might be, have I made this book the best I can make it? Have I gotten this book properly edited? Have I made sure that it's error-free in terms of grammar and punctuation? This leads you to questions that you can answer that then will lead to you taking action to make sure this is the best book you can possibly produce, and then you can go ahead and self-publish it. So you see how we do this. We write down these negative thoughts, we turn them into helpful questions that will then help us take action. The next step when you catch yourself overthinking, and this one's really helpful, I found this one to be really good. You distract yourself, pull up a funny video, call a friend, go take a walk. You want to shake yourself out of this habit, this overthinking loop that you're in. You got to shake yourself out of it, because as long as you're in it, it's just going to feel discouraging and demotivating. You want to get yourself in a different place, and sometimes you have to do that neurologically, which means moving your body, getting a nice tall glass of water, anything like that that's going to break it up and shake up your system a little bit is going to help you. And there's one last suggestion I have if overthinking has got you in a loop, is to go play, go have some fun. It could be that writing is just starting to feel too serious to you. This is easy for this to happen, especially when we start publishing books or we're trying to publish books and we're getting serious about where we want this career to go. There's nothing wrong with being serious about it, but we can get too bogged down in all this seriousness at times. So if your overthinking is really ramping up, then it's time to go have some fun. Experiment with being silly, make a mess, do some finger painting or whatever, spend some time If you got little young kids, that's a great way to do it. Creativity thrives when you allow yourself to just be without judgment. So you need to bring some of that creative play back into your life and see if that helps you break out of that overthinking loop. So I want to know, are you an overthinking writer, or have you ever been? If you have been, please share your story in the comments. It might help some other writers. Meanwhile, here's your mission for the week. Start by catching yourself overthinking, and then take a tiny action. So this might be shaking yourself out of it by going and taking a walk or listening to some good music. It might mean writing a really messy paragraph and not caring about how bad it is, just to get yourself back into writing again. The point is just to pick one place where you're overthinking, or to catch yourself in the act, and then take one small action to break yourself out of it. If you do that and it works, please let me know. I'd love to hear. Meanwhile, if you're concerned that your first draft just isn't working, be sure to check out this next video coming up on the next screen, because that's probably going to help. Okay, mission accomplished. See you on the next adventure.